In January 2024, the transfer window had just opened. Luton Town had been winning hearts and minds worldwide while giving a good account of ourselves in the Premier League, and many supporters like myself were eager to see how the club strengthened to try and secure that vital Premier League spot for the season. We waited, and we waited, and we waited. Concerns started to grow. The club then, some would say, raided Reading for two of their players, Taylor Harris and Tom Holmes, neither of whom would play any part whatsoever in the rest of that season. Tom Holmes would feature during the Championship campaign before being sent out on loan, whereas your guess is as good as mine about where Taylor Harris is. This marked the halfway point of the January transfer window. The wait then continued until finally on January the 30th we signed Japanese international right back Daiki Hashioka, and well, that's it. There was no more business done by Luton Town. Some might argue that it wasn't possible to see an injury crisis coming. Others would argue the signs were staring us in the face. Whatever the reason, many Luton Town fans felt the club simply hadn't been ambitious enough in the quest to stay in the Premier League. Then the collapse started. Players started dropping like flies, results started to go against us. The fans stood strong, supporting the team through thick and thin, giving our undying support to Rob Edwards, who'd increased his stock tenfold during that season. I remember attending the Luton-Everton game at the tail end of the season, and we all know nothing less than a win was needed in this game before we knew the inevitable. We did not win. I remember the drive home from that game with my friend Matt, and it was just torture, where we mulled over the missed opportunities from the season and inevitably the January transfer window. So there it was. Despite winning people over and surpassing expectations most had set for us, Luton Town were relegated back to the Championship. And all things considered, expectations were high, not only from us fans, but pundits and from the club itself, who were talking about fast-flowing attacking football and challenging to go straight back up to the Premier League. How utterly laughable that seems now. Let's start with the summer transfer window. We inevitably lose our talisman, Ross Barkley, whose career revival was the story of our season, and easily would be the hardest asset to replace. Sambi Lokonga, who I myself wax lyrical about, having formed a strong partnership with Barkley. Issa Kabore, who for his defensive faults always provided a good outlet to counter, and had a good understanding with Chio Ogbene, another vital player we lost for £8 million towards the end of the transfer window. So, to replace these players, who did we sign? Ruel Walters came in from Arsenal, and he seemed like a pretty interesting signing with a lot of upside. Sadly, despite a bright start, he suffered a broken foot and hasn't looked anywhere close to the potential expected of him early on. We signed Shandon Baptiste, who is definitely up there with the potentially worst Luton Town signings of all time. Seemingly permanently injured, he's not repaid back the club for taking a chance on him with a long contract and very good wages, and if it was down to me, we should terminate his contract as soon as possible. We also signed Mark McGuinness for a severely overinflated transfer fee close to the deadline, and whilst I think he's been one of our better signings, he's still young, and with no experienced central defensive partner to guide him through high-stress situations, he's struggled at times. I could go over more, but the crux of the issue for me is we didn't rotate out enough people and bring in enough quality fresh blood. It seemed like despite our new financial realities at the club, we failed to adapt to this and still attempted to negotiate from a position of poverty despite every club and agent the land over knowing this simply was not the case. The board bemoaned the fact that there seemed to be a premium on Luton Town business, and it simply astounds me they were not expecting this, let alone being prepared for it. There has been a top-down failure at Luton Town since winning the playoffs, and it's directly led to the death spiral we are currently enduring on the field. We kept Rob Edwards in position far too long. I don't blame Matt Bloomfield for the mess we're currently in. It was a poisoned chalice. It really pains me to say this, but we are on a crash course for League One football, We have nobody to blame but ourselves. This is an incredibly bitter pill to swallow as a Luton Town fan, and this is definitely the most preventable relegation I have seen us suffer during my time as a fan of this club. Things can only get better, they say. Well, things will only get better for Luton Town if our board adapts its strategy to prevent this happening again in the future. The Premier League was supposed to be the catalyst for the new dawn of Luton Town Football Club, and instead we are crashing down to League One.